All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, everybody? Happy Friday. It is very rare we get to say fights will be here in less than 24 hours, Big Marley. We're out of the Apex. We're over to Saudi Arabia. 11 fights, not great. Fights have been mixed and matched and thrown all together. Ikram was supposed to fight last week on the main event now. He was going to fight Trali on short notice. Trali gets another short notice spot this week against Magomedov. Crazy stuff in the UFC this month. Alberg probably not going to fight now. So much changing. 11 fights. Boo. My volume will be less than usual, unfortunately. But I like morning fights. 9 a.m. my time. Going to get up, hit the quick sauna, watch some fights. It's going to be a great day. How's your day going so far?
Not too bad. Been busy. Just finished up all the notes over at SHIPIT Nation. So go check those out. Just finished up ownership as well. Yeah, 11 fights. I don't love it. Hopefully we can keep all 11. Wouldn't shock me if Trali found a way to pull out again. But they weighed in. They had their face-offs.
Yeah, they all made weight.
So hopefully we're good to go. And then next week we got the pay-per-view, so I'll be more pumped for that one.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So all 22 fighters did make weight again, 12 Eastern. So yeah, if you're living out here in the West Coast and you sleep in, you set an alarm, or I would say you can make lineups before. Usually it's fine, but you really do never know, and I don't want to jinx it. So I would set an alarm. Ben's in here. Phil, Little Neck, Nate D, Cody, Rio. What's going on, guys? A lot of familiar faces. Plenty of them. I think almost all of those guys are in the Discord. How do you get in the Discord, you ask? Right here. You got to be a monthly, 6-month, or annual member at ShipItNation.com. And if you want to join us, and you want to get in the Discord, want to mess with the Shiptimizer for PGA, for MLB, make sure to use that promo code FGWC15. Gets you 15% off. I think that's going to go away next week because that is when the Fantasy Golf World Championship is. Shout out Hoop. Shout out Tambo. Awesome stuff from them. Looking to take home, I think it's a smooth $1 million to first place. So if you want to join us over here at the Nation, we do have weekly packages. No Discord, no Shiptimizer. You can see all of our content, though. NASCAR this week, NHL playoffs going on tonight, Stanley Cup still. Of course, or I said NASCAR, of course, MMA, little PGA showdown action as well. Ham and I will be talking some MLB in a couple hours. So, again, if you want to join us, FGWC15, 15% off. And, of course, shout out our sponsoring this show, drafters.com. If you want to get over, best spot to draft, best ball teams, very fun formats. $15, $500K up top this year. $2 contest going on as well. I know Big Marley heavy in the streets thus far. Head over to drafters.com. Use that promo code SHIPIT. Put in $100. They will match $100 as well. So then you have 200. Who else we got here? Coolin, what's going on? It has been a minute, Coolin. And he's talking about best ball. Coolin had a big best ball win last year. Shout out to you, Coolin. Hope everything's going well. Badlands, hope you're doing well. Hey, I went to the Badlands once. All right, Big Marley, let's talk some fights. Any broad slate overview from you?
Not really. Ownership was tough. Felt like there's a lot of chalk, so a lot of lineups could be very similar this week. Getting different is going to be tough, especially because I really don't like one of the lowest owned guys on the card, but we'll get there. Looking forward to breaking down with you.
Yeah, we'll get right into it. My broad slate overview, let me get a quick drink. So you need to try and get different on 11-fight card. One way to get different right away, fade the main events. 8,400, 7,800, clear as day, the fight. We have combined ownership on it 90%. I think that's definitely 90% is accurate. So you fade that, you fade 90%, somehow it busts, a third round finish. We'll talk through outcomes. It's not on the winner. You have a lot better chance to cut down the dupes up top. Another way, of course, just go to our ownership, which will be up after this. All the content will be up. Mix in, there's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people we have right now under 20%. Mix in one of them, mix in 2 of those. Magomedov, we have I'm not going to say what our ownership is, But short notice replacement for Magomedov, he went from a minus 250 favorite in steps Trali on a couple days notice. So his pricing is already there at 8,800. Now he's a minus 600 favorite. So clearly he's going to be one of the chalkiest, if not the chalkiest on the card. Play his opponent, who's going to be the lowest owned. So there's some leverage there. That's my quick broad slate overview. I do think you can actually leave some salary on this 11 fight card. Again, that's another way to help you get difference. But I do think it's more viable on this 11 fight card than some other ones that we have. But you can always leave salary, fade the chalkiest people, fade the main event, play some sub 20% people. That's a broad slate overview if you're trying to ship the flagship with as least people as possible. I definitely be cutting back my volume. 11 fight cards, not great when it comes to DFS. All right, Big Marley, let's get into it again. Like button, subscribe button. We appreciate a lot. I know many watch on playback. If you're watching on Saturday, hope you have a good weekend. Regardless, hope you have a good weekend. Having a good day. Started off, Big Marley, the first fight of the night will be pretty low owned. Chang Ho Lee taking on Long Zhao. Definitely butchered all those names, but it is the first fight of the night. Go to fight odds, scroll all the way down. You will see who I'm talking about. They are priced 8,300 and 7,900. We have Lee, now the slight favorite, who's the 7,900 fighter. This line's been going back and forth all week, and depending on what books you look at, some have Long the favorite, some have Lee the favorite. Bet online, which I go off of, minus 114 Lee, minus 106 Long. This fight's plus 145 to finish. Lee plus 260 inside the distance. Long plus 400. I'll throw it to you right away on this one. What do you see?
Could be a good one to target. Most of Lee's fights are taking place on the ground, whether it's him getting taken down or him getting takedowns. It just seems like 90% of his fights take place on the mat. I would give Long the striking edge for that reason, just because I haven't seen enough from Lee on the feet to really give him any confidence there. So I would think that Long is more likely to win a decision on the feet, is also more likely to get a knockout. But Lee is the one that just doesn't have any interest in striking. So I think he's going to be going out looking for takedowns early and often. As an underdog, $7,900, I like that quite a bit. But he could be taken down himself. He could be reversed on the ground too. So I think Long's grappling will be ticked up a little bit in this fight just because of the Lee aggression side. However, for $400 different, I would much rather have the Lee side, the guy I'm confident will outscore his price tag if he wins. Whereas if Long wins a decision, I could see him spinning a round and a half on his back where he's just not doing anything, and then he wins with 55, 60 points, and that's not going to cut it. If Lee wins, I think he's getting at least 10x here with a 100-point upside, really. So he's going to be my preferred play. But now with him being, I guess, a slight favorite and $400 cheaper, the ownership is going to be there as well. I'll still probably get a little bit overweight. I haven't built lineups yet. I'm not sure if I can even get a whole lot in this mid-range. But I am definitely going to prefer the Lee side of this. And then I'll still get exposure to the Long side, but I think I'll be a little bit underweight. If not, then maybe field weight, since his ownership should be down a little bit with the changing of odds. But I do think that this one will be a lot of grappling, so probably a good one to target either side of, especially if you have a lean either way.
Yeah, I don't really have too much more to add except, so now when I was writing this fight up, it was like minus 120 Long, plus 100 Lee, and I still thought Lee was going to probably get more ownership because of the 400 savings, a primary wrestler, whereas Long wants to keep it on the feet. So everything you said is very true. And in DFS, as we know on DraftKings, you want takedowns, control time, the people that will go to the ground. But, I mean, especially if Lee somehow closes minus 120, minus 125, at all books. Right now it's flip-flop depending where you look. If Lee takes a little steam overnight, we could see ownership at like 28%, 29% versus like 15%. And if that's the case on 11 fight card, coin flip fight pretty much, it's got to be Long. Like if you need to get different on this card, I'd rather play Long, a lower owned Long, get some leverage off of Lee than I would fade the main event. And I'll have some lineups like that, or play Trali over Magomedov. I'll have some lineups like that, but I feel a lot better getting direct leverage in this one. And while Lee, his path or his ceiling is way higher, I think, because of wrestling. I mean, you just want at least one guy to try and wrestle. Like, what if Long is just stronger and he gets reversals? He maybe gets a takedown. Lee has been taken down, etc. High-paced fight. Yeah, I think Long just the game theory wise, and it was Lee earlier for me this week. If the ownership was the same, give me Lee. At this point, though, I'll overspend $400, get the lower owned fighter, and just hope at the end of the day. So, yeah, a lot of 11 fight cards pretty much throw out all analysis. 14 fight cards, pick your winners because ownership's way more spread out. So many different combinations. Very easy to do your tape, play your favorite fighters. 11 fight card is so much harder to do because usually your favorites are very chalky. You win, you share with 150 people. Negative EV in my opinion. So that's what I got. What's going on, G. Kiefer? Lunch date with the boys, no Garbrandt. No Garbrandt. What's he saying there?
I think on the tough episode where Garbrandt was all drunk, he's like chilling with the boys.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, you got it. Big Marley got it, G. Kiefer. Went over my head. Hope you're doing well, though. Let's get rolling to the next fight. The second biggest, tied for the second. Renat, I guess, and Ghazi Sulov pretty much tied. Magomed, Ghazi Sulov taking on Bredson, Robero. Minus 340 is Ghazi Vulov. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. Robero plus 280 on the way back. The most likely fight to finish on the card. Minus 800. Ghazi Vulov minus 300. Robero plus 375. And yeah, you were right. G. Kiefer said that. So this, I guess, is another one that I'll get, like, I pretty much can say the same thing as I said about the last one. And then the one that we'll talk about with Magomedov Trali. Ghazi Sulov is going to be one of the highest owned fighters on the card. Robero is going to be one of the lowest owned fighters on the card. And the fight's minus 800 to finish. Now, it's not necessarily, you can't say, like, compare last week to this week exactly. But this is similar to the Weston Wilson fight of last week. You got leverage with the dog off of the favorites. The odds are pretty much the same. And it was an 11 fight card. Granted, it worked for us. I will say, though, screw single entry MMA. I started off 4-0 in the 555. One of them is Weston Wilson. I don't cash. Freaking Garrett Armfield and then Alex Perez. I literally go from 4-0, chance at shipping, to literally not cashing. So that's why I hate single entry. That's on a different tangent, though. But again, you need to find ways to get different on this 11 fight card. I think it's pretty clear. If Robero wins, he has big upside. It's probably by knockout. 50% of the field roughly dead. You're 15% roughly, beats everyone else, and now you're playing a huge, and you can play the main event with it, etc. I'll have some Ghazi Vulov as well, but maybe I'll fade the main event in those lineups, or I'll have to play a Trali maybe or something like that. So yeah, like again, it's all game theory. Minus 800 to finish. The winner has big time upside, but the ownership difference could be 4x. At that point, on 11 fight card, if Robero wins, you have a chance to ship with a couple people. If Ghazi Vulov wins and you have them, yeah, you got to get different in other spots. So I'll probably be more of a weight to Robero. I had 5 winners and the main didn't cash. Yes. Dude, screw a single entry, man. That hand, yeah, dang, that's tough.
Sport, man.
That's tough. And that armbar was so deep, man. I thought he had it. I thought he had the armbar early. I don't know if you remember it against Heastan. Heastan was, I mean, props to him. His pace, his pressure, good fighter. But that do you remember that armbar early in the first round?
I was at the pool all day.
Oh, you did tweet that. It was nasty, but not nasty enough. Go ahead.
I might be at the pool all day again for this card too, but
yeah.
But we'll see. I don't hate the breakdown. I do think Robero is live for a knockout, but I think that punching power is the only edge I give him in this matchup. But that's what puts him in play. He's got power. These guys are big boys. He could get a first-round knockout and break the slate at low ownership. But if he doesn't get the first-round knockout, I just think that Ghazi Sulov is the better overall striker. I actually think he's a little bit more dangerous because of his kicks. And then he should have a huge wrestling edge in this fight where I don't see Robero having anything to offer off his back. So if I knew he was going to go for takedowns, I would really like him a lot more. I just think that he could win the fight on the feet. And if he's going to win a striking-based decision, then he's not going to make the optimal lineup. So that's going to keep me from going overweight to him. But I do want a good amount of exposure to him because I think he could go out there and land 6 takedowns or just 1 takedown and win with some ground and pound. I do think he's going to get a TKO at some point, probably on the ground. But there's also cheaper plays on this card who could do the same thing. So I don't know exactly how much exposure I'll get to the Ghazi Sulov side, but he is my preferred play. And I was going to bring up the Weston Wilson matchup on a different fight on this card. So I think I'll get other fights to make me a little bit different instead of this one. I'm not going to go overweight, I don't think, to Robero, but I'm fine being around the field just so I don't get burned with that first round possible knockout.
Yeah, to be fair, like if I had 70% Gazivulov and I loved my whole script and I didn't think I'm duped a ton, sure, I'm totally good with that. I just don't see that being the case on this 11 fight card. And I just think because like I put restrictions. I look at all my teams. If I'm leaving 50K salary and I have a lot of chalky fighters, I exit out because I just don't want that. So I think when I look virtual hand building, I build it all out and looking through my teams, I'll probably be Xing out a lot of Gazivulov teams as the highest price fighter and one of the highest owned, just harder to get different. Like I'll hope that's the thing. You go down and it's like, if you play Gafurov over him and leave 800 at a third of the ownership, it's awful on paper. But if you win, that's how you can solo ship versus a 20K, whatever. You leave 500 to Magomedov. I don't think that gets you too different. 100 Fakir Dinov, not much. Gastelum for 400, different. I don't love it. Nasrat 300, I don't love it. So there's only so many different people you can drop down to that you still feel like can outscore them. So I guess at the end, which I don't really love to do that on this one. So at the end of the day, I'm going to probably hope Robero wins and it's early because I'll probably be more overweight on him. But I don't want like 30+% Robero by any means. You get 20%, you're probably double the field. Keep it going to fight. I guess I just mentioned the guy. Muin Gafurov taking on Kang Ho Kang, -150 Gafurov, +130 is Kang. This fight's +125 to finish. Gafurov +245, Kang +350. This will be one of the lower owned combined fights on the card. I don't know, man. So I'm going to have to play some Gafurov because like Gastelum's the only one that we have lower owned in the upper tier. I don't like him too much unless when we get to that fight, you think he puts on the wrestling shoes. But we do know Gafurov can wrestle. He's a primary wrestler. Kang has solid grappling though. I'm going to throw it to you on this right away. I'm definitely leaning the dog. I like the dog on the money line. I like the dog with the savings, the 800. I think you can leave 800 on the table. However, for Gafurov, like, is he going to wrestle enough or at least try to wrestle enough where he has a 100+ point upside in a win? Because the style's there, the ownership's really low. Right below it's Robert Whitaker, who's going to be 3 times as high owned. So if you feel confident, and Pavlovich is 100 more, so Magomedov 8,800 chalk. Pavlovich 8,700 chalk, 8,400 Whitaker chalk, no 8,600. Then there's Gafurov, who's nothing. So the clear easiest pivot between 3 of the chalkiest fighters on the card. But if he's not going to wrestle Big Marley, I just don't see how he outscores him. So do you think he wrestles or has success wrestling?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do think he's probably the better offensive wrestler, and he's probably got more one-punch power. So we're going to need him to get the knockout or wrestle, because he's not going to strike enough to score well in a decision. And I would think that Kang is our higher volume striker in this one. I also think Kang's probably the better overall grappler in this fight too, which maybe takes away from those takedowns on the Gafurov side. So for me, if I'm using Gafurov, it's in chalkier lineups just to get a little bit different. But I'm picking Kang to win this fight. I just think it should be a pick'em fight. I don't really understand the line on this one. And all but 2 of Kang's wins are like, he would break the slate with almost all of his scores so far. They're like 90+, except for he's got a 70-pointer and then he's got a 57er. But he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them are over 100, over 110 for most of them. I think you would need an early finish to get there. I don't see him getting 100 points in a decision, but I do think any win from Kang will be probably around 10x or more, and I'm cool with that. Whereas on the Gafurov side, I just don't feel well about him scoring because I don't think he's going to land 7 takedowns in this fight. And if for him to get a knockout, I feel like he's going to have to land some spinning back fist or something like that, which I never like to rely on. So give me the underdog. He's one of, I think, a handful of underdogs I'm picking to win on this card, actually. So Kang is my preferred play on this one. I'll probably be overweight to him. And then it just depends on how chalky I am for me to eat the Gafurov stuff. I'm not going to have him in a single entry, but if I'm making a lot of lineups, I'll have to throw him in a little bit. I just like other favorites a lot more.
Great breakdown. I don't have too much more to add. I'm picking Kang. I think the line's crazy. I like Kang's upside. Again, like that's what I'm nervous about Gafurov is because Kang, I think, is the much better grappler. If he gets an advantageous position, somehow reverses it, takes the back, like Gafurov could be in trouble. So if he knows that and just thinks he can outstrike him, there's almost no chance Gafurov's on the optimal unless he binks him. And again, the inside the distance prop isn't crazy for Gafurov, plus 245. Again, he's surrounded by 3 fighters that are going to be over double the ownership. So I know I'm going to be playing Gafurov just because of game theory. But yeah, in a vacuum, like I like Kang a lot more. You can go play any Gafurov team, go to Kang, leave 800. I'll be looking to do that as well. I like Kang right here, just like you do. So I like that. Let's keep it going. Tied for the second biggest favorite on the card with Aulov is Rinat Fakhretdinov taking on Nicholas Dalby. Minus 350 is Fakhretdinov. Plus 285 is Dalby. This fight's plus 135 to finish. Fakhretdinov plus 160 inside the distance. Dalby plus 750. Is Dalby going to do what he did to Bonfim? Can he survive early, use the cardio, take over late when Fakhretdinov gasses and put up a big score? Yes or no?
I don't think so, but that's the worry. The third round will be the scariest for sure. But Fakhretdinov should have a huge wrestling, grappling upside in the first half of this fight. He's a big favorite. He could actually knock him out. He's got a knockdown in the last 3 fights of his. But he's also, last I looked anyways, he was minus 125 to land over 3.5 takedowns in this fight. So we don't even need him to get a finish in this fight to score over 100 points. So there's just lots of ways for him to score well. Whereas if Dalby does win, I feel like he's dropping the first 2 rounds. Maybe he gets a TKO in the third, but that might not even be enough at that point. And if it's like another, could be a draw, maybe we give him a bad split decision, that's not going to cut it either. But Fakhretdinov coming off a draw in his last fight, he would have scored 97 in that fight. And then he's got 130, 109. So I like Fakhretdinov. He's going to be one of my favorite pay-ups on the slate. And I do think he kind of dominates on the ground early in this fight. And just hopefully the cardio holds up if he doesn't get a finish. But I think if he wins, he's going to score well. And Dalby's someone I'm probably looking to fade with limited lineups. I would probably need more than 20 for me to get to any Dalby because I just like a lot of underdogs to win on this card. And even if he does win, his best path to victory is still not going to score well. So yeah, give me Fakhretdinov in this one. And I think I'll be overweight to the field. He is pretty chalky, so I don't exactly know how much exposure I can get to all these guys up top that I like, but he's one that I'm going to make it a point to get into lineups. I could definitely see me starting with him on a hand-built single entry.
Yeah, in a vacuum, he's my favorite play on the slate, I think. Like Magomedov does have his first round, plenty of first round upside, and he can put up the 110, assuming he doesn't get a first minute bonus. But Fakhretdinov's past like 130. I mean, Dalby can't stuff takedowns. If he gets up, Fakhretdinov will gladly keep dumping him. Like you said, he's had 130 multiple times. Like his rest, he could get 10 plus takedowns in this spot. Nobody else on this. I wouldn't say that. I guess if Lee's way better than Long, Naimov somehow is way better than Lima. I don't really see that happening too much. But not many you can say could has 10 plus takedown upside. Fakhretdinov, obviously, if the line's 3.5, 10's crazy. But it's not out of the realm of possibilities if Dalby can continue to get back up. I'm with you, though. I think Fakhretdinov, yeah, even if it's on the feet, like the power is clearly on the Fakhretdinov side. The volume on the Dalby side a little bit, but I think Fakhretdinov makes it I don't know. I think he makes it look easy until maybe he slows down in the third, like you said, gets a little scary, but he's just going to be trying to grab onto him and literally hold him down the whole time. I like Fakhretdinov. I need more than 20 lineups to get to Dalby as well. Everyone always doubting Dalby? You're right, Lone Wolf. You are right. He'll be low owned again. Keep it going. Next fight on the card. I'm interested to see what you have to say about this one. Another low-owned piece in the upper tier. Nasrat Haqparast taking on Jared Gordon. Minus 233 Haqparast. Plus 198 is Gordon. This fight's plus 150 to finish. Haqparast plus 175. Gordon plus 725 inside the distance. So I'm going to throw it to you on this. Do you prefer Haqparast or Gastelum?
Haqparast for sure. Right. Gastelum was the one I was talking about that I'm Xing out of my card. I'm not going to get to any Gastelum this week.
You don't think he wrestles at all? Because I'm Xing him in 20 and below, but that was the one thing. The reason I asked Big Marley quick, Haqparast or Gastelum, because they're the clear, outside of Gafurov, the clear pivots from the Pavlovich, from the Magomedov, from the Renit, like way less ownership, those two, than everybody else up top. So if somehow one of those two are the highest scores, that's when you're seeing less dupes on the optimal. That's why I asked him.
Yeah, I really don't like Gastelum. Even if he does wrestle, I just don't think he's going to be able to pay off that price tag. But Hack Prest, I'm actually picking him to win by TKO. So I do like Hack Prest, but he's going to need the TKO. He can strike with high volume, but at 9K, I don't know that he can strike with high enough volume to score 100 plus. And then even if he does score 100 plus, he's still got to beat Dinov and the guy's name that's hard to pronounce that we already talked about. Yeah, and then Magomedov and Whitaker. Like, there's just a lot of people that he's going to have to outscore. So he's kind of at 9K, knockout or bust, but he's going to be lower owned than all those guys. So that's one way I'm cool making my lineups different. But at the same time, Gordon is super live to win this fight if he does look for takedowns. He can strike at high volume as well, but Hack Prest is just so much faster, more dangerous, more durable, just a way cleaner striker overall. So I don't think it would be smart of Gordon to go out there and look to strike in this matchup. He should look to wrestle, and he's a guy who could land 5+ takedowns at $7,200. So this is one where I don't really even have a preferred play, but I do want to target both sides of this fight, especially in MME. I'm fine going overweight to both sides because they both have paths to a high score. It's just that Hack Prest has to score 100 points at his, whereas Gordon could get 80 and possibly make the optimal lineup. So I like both sides of it. Both of them have paths to victory, but I think Hack Prest knocks him out in the second round. You're on mute.
Mute. What a donkey. Thank you. I would have kept going forever probably too. Great breakdown. I agree. I put Nazareth and he'll be in my player pool. I put him underweight, and like Gordon's my preferred play in this fight. Obviously the 1,800 savings. There's only so many dogs on this card that I do like. Both throw good volume, over 5 significant strikes per minute. Gordon averages, I think it's like 1.7 takedowns per 15 minutes, 1.95 takedowns per 15 minutes. So, he has some wrestling upside if Nazareth can't stuff it. Both guys throw good volume. Nazareth has some sneaky power. This came out a little bit as of late. So Nazareth is a pivot from the others in the top tier. I'll use them in chalkier lineups. In a vacuum, I like Renat, Gazibulov, Magomedov, Pav, all of them more. But we play ownership game. And then Gordon, I like him more than Dalby. I like him more than Robero in a vacuum, even though he'll be higher owned. I like him more than Trali. I like him more than D-Rod. So pretty much he's one of my favorite dogs down there as well. So I'll get some ownership. I hope it's going to be a relatively low-ish owned fight, and I might actually end up overweight. What's going on, Murray Lime? Sean Sullivan, hope you're doing well. Also, we'll keep it rolling. Again, like button, very much appreciated. If you're just joining us, hope everything's going well. Like button, subscribe button. And if you want to join us at the Nation FGWC Fantasy Golf World Championship, 15 gets you 15% off monthly, 6-month, or annual packages. Head over to ShipItNation.com. Check it out. What's going on as well, Marquis? I think I missed you. Next fight on the card. This is the short notice replacement. Shara Bullet Magomedov taking on Antonio Tricali. Minus 550 is Magomedov. Plus 400 is Tricali. This fight is minus 400 to finish. We have Magomedov minus 265 inside the distance. Tricali plus 575. So I think Magomedov probably the highest owned on the card. You have Pavlovich by a little bit. Both of them in the same price range. I think both will be extremely popular. But we have the 5th highest price fighter, Magomedov, with the biggest favorite, the highest inside the distance prop. And I don't see a round 1 prop, but I assume that's got to be the highest as well. Magomedov's clear as day, going to get ownership. Tricali, though, that's what I was talking about earlier. So he's going to want to wrestle. Like, that is what he does, is wrestle. And Magomedov's a striker, even though you see OV, very good striker. If Tricali wins, he has a 100+ point upside without a doubt. Now, the likelihood of him winning, not great. Plus 400, plus 450 at some books. But at like 10% ownership versus a 50% owned, 5x, does Magomedov deserve to be 5 times higher owned? I don't know. So I'm going to be playing some Tricali because it's 11 fight card. If it's a 14 fight card, probably no Trali. You got to get different though. You get direct leverage with the wrestler and a great fight to target. Makes a lot of sense. But yeah, Magomedov by round 1 knockout probably.
Yeah, Trali was going to be my Weston Wilson from last week, where if he wins, it's going to be a first-round submission most likely, because he's going to have to get the fight to the ground. His only chance on the feet would be just like a one-punch knockout. He is a big dude on some special supplements, but he hasn't fought in over 2.5 years. He just pulled out of a fight 1 month ago. He was scheduled to fight last week, took this fight on less than a week's notice, flying out to Saudi Arabia. And I don't think he's going to be able to wrestle more than 1 round. So if he doesn't get that first round finish, I think Magomedov just starts kicking him to death, probably gets the second round TKO. But if Magomedov is spending that first round on his back, it's going to be tough for him to outscore a Dinov or a Gadzi Zulov. So I think I prefer both of those guys at what I think will be lower ownership. But Magomedov is your cash game play for sure. He's also a solid GPP play. He's minus 230 to get a knockout in this fight. So I do think he's a solid play, but at ownership, I'm fine going underweight to him. And then Trali, I don't see him really winning, but if he does, he's going to be on the optimal lineup. So I do want to be overweight to him. I like him more than Robero, who we mentioned earlier. Trali's my Weston Wilson. Even though I don't feel good about it at all, I do think he's going to put up a high score if he does somehow pull it off. But yeah, good fight to target overall because it is such late notice. It's like the third or fourth opponent for Magomedov, though. Who knows how that's going to affect him, but I just think his game plan is going to be the same. Throw a million kicks, try and knock out the guy. And I mean, he was super active off his back in his last fight, but getting taken down by a striker and held down that much, that's not a good sign, especially when that's what Trali's looking to do. So I'll be more overweight to Trali, even though that might be like 18% or something like that. But I don't see me getting any real leverage on the Magomedov side.
Can we even call Bruno Silva a striker anymore after Chris Weidman boxes years in?
Maybe not. Maybe we won't even see him again. Who knows?
That was so bad. Yeah, I don't really got much. Yeah, Trali's going to be low owned. Magomedov, one of the highest owned. Direct leverage in a fight heavily favored to finish. And a clash of styles. Trali, the wrestler. It adds up right there. I'm with you. I'll have more Trali than Magomedov to the field, I imagine. 5 fights left. Johnny Walker taking on Volkan Oezdemir. Minus 114 is Johnny Walker. And again, depending on where you look on the book, pretty much a coin flip. Volkan minus 106. This fight is minus 200 to finish. Both guys are plus 170 inside the distance. So I'll throw a fight back to last week that I'll compare this one to. This is the Josh Quinlan Adam Fugit fight. 2 guys that I don't think really wrestle. I think this fight stays up or stays on the feet. Both guys have some power, primary strikers. But man, the volume isn't great. If they don't get knocked out, you could be looking at 15 minutes like we did with the Quinlan Fugit fight. 15 minutes of it staying on the feet and a close split decision, whatever it is, it doesn't score great. Volkan and Johnny Walker, power, plus 170 inside the distance, good for their price. Going to get ownership because of it. Very live for the KO. I'll play some of both. But I'm definitely going to have fades of this fight because, I mean, what? Over 2.5 plus 125. If that does happen, I just don't see how this fight's optimal. Unless you think, you can tell me if you think Johnny Walker maybe wrestles or something like that. But I think you get these 2 on the feet. They pick shots at range. And I'm leaning Johnny Walker as a pick because he's the more athletic, freaky fighter. But yeah, I mean, he's dumb as a box of rocks in there, and it's a close fight. So I don't really know, man. Flip a coin. At the end of the day, though, I'm nervous for this fight being on the optimal.
Yeah, I really don't like this fight very much. I if it goes to a decision, I don't think it matters who wins. They're just not going to be on the optimal lineup. I don't see either guy landing more than 1 or 2 takedowns in this fight. And I actually think that Oezdemir might be more likely to look for the takedowns. But I don't think it'll matter. I don't think it's going to be, wrestling shoes where he goes out there and tries to wrestle for 2 or 3 rounds. They're mostly going to strike at a lower pace. They're going to be worried about the other guy's power. So I really don't have a preferred play in this one. I'm just going to try and get more lineups without it than with it. But they are both live for a first-round knockout, which will put them on the optimal lineup, so I can't fade it. I prefer the Oezdemir side for $200 cheaper. but I don't even want like 30% Ozdemir. I feel like I want to max them both at like 20, 25% tops. And really, I would say 25% Ozdemir, 20% Walker, something like that, and prefer less, to be honest with you. But I have this fight going to a decision. I think it's going to be a split decision where these idiot judges won't even know who wins. And that's not going to do us any good for DraftKings. So I don't see this one being on my single entry. It'll be more of an optimizer type fight for me, where I just put in a max exposure and let it do its thing from there. But yeah, give me Ozdemir to win that split.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to argue that. And yeah, the thing is, so that fight right in the mid tier, its closest price, 8,200, 8K. We have two 8,300 fights. We're going to talk about Naimov next, and then the long Lee fight. Both of those fights can play out on the ground. And then Whitaker, Aliskerov in the main event with 25 minutes, heavily favored to finish. So if this fight, like, it needs points in the mid tier. It's competing against some okay fights that have a chance to play out on the ground. So yeah, if it's not a knockout in the first 2 rounds, I don't think we really get there. Hopefully the rest doesn't ask Walker, where are you now? Yeah. What do you say, the desert or something? Or yeah, something weird. Something like that. That was geeked. All right. Let's keep it rolling. 4 fights left. Just talked about it. So we had 8,200, 8,000. Now we're going to the second 8,300, 7,900 fights. Muhammad Naimov taking on Felipe Lima. 8,300 Naimov, 7,900 is Lima. Lima's taking this fight on short notice. And so this is another one. The line opened Naimov minus 250 a couple days ago. Lima got by immediately. Pretty much was around a coin flip. Even Lima was a favorite for a little while. Then Naimov became the favorite, and it was going back and forth. And now I see Lima as a small favorite at some books. So Naimov, pretty big favorite, minus 250. Immediate buy on Lima to a small favorite. Naimov has taken a little money, and now it looks like a little money coming back on Lima. This fight's minus 120 to finish. Naimov plus 195. Lima plus 280. Good fight to target by all the metrics. And when you dig into a little more, Naimov has wrestling, strong guy. Lima coming up a weight class in this one to make his UFC debut. It's on short notice. But man, I was impressed watching this guy. He's got skills. Good on the feet. Got some wrestling himself. What I'm concerned about, though, is Naimov is just so freaking strong, as we saw against Nathaniel Wood, grabbing in the clinch against Jamie Malarkey, even up a weight class on short notice. Like, he is thick. He is strong. He's going to try and wrestle. Can Lima break away, get up if he's taken down, keep it at range? Or is Naimov just going to power wrestle? Before I throw it to you, actually, last thing. So I'm looking at the odds, the pricing, and ownership. We have Naimov lower owned as the more expensive fighter in pretty much a coin flip fight. I think Naimov has more takedown upside. I'll just say I'm on Naimov because game theory-wise, it's clear as day to me. Naimov is the right side if ownership does stay true. But yeah, I think Lima's solid. I think it's a good fight.
Yeah, if this was a full camp for Lima, I would be picking him to win. But he is coming up a weight class. He had to travel like 14 hours from Brazil to Saudi Arabia on short notice. I don't love that. I don't know that his cardio can hold up for a full 3 rounds. But I do think he's the better overall striker. I would give Naimov the one-punch power edge, though, and then probably the offensive wrestling edge, especially if Lima's going to tire out. But this is one where the odds are weird. Bet Online has Lima a super slight favorite, minus 115 to minus 105. But Naimov is more likely to win inside the distance, plus 195 to plus 280. And he's also more likely to win by decision, plus 250 to plus 260. So I don't really get it.
Why is he really weird?
Why is he not the favorite? But yeah, weird. That $400 difference, especially if Lima keeps climbing to be an actual favorite in this one, I would much rather have the lower owned guy who has been preparing for a fight in this one, who can land multiple takedowns and score okay in a decision. And he's also got one punch power as well. So my preferred play is Naimov. He's one of my ways to get different. I like him more than Long. And then on the Lima side, like, I would be liking him if it was another card. But even if he wins, I feel like it's going to be mostly striking. I don't see him doing a whole lot if he gets takedowns, and that might tire him out faster too. And he wasn't out there starching guys on the feet either. So if Lima wins, I think it would be more likely a decision, and I don't think that that's going to cut it, especially if him and Lee both win, I think Lee's going to outscore him. And then there's other underdogs who I like more as well. So I'll be underweight to Lima, overweight to Naimov. Give me Naimov to win the last half of this fight and get a handful of takedowns along the way.
I like it. Yeah. And we're on the same page there. But for me, it's mainly because the style of Naimov, I think, is better for DFS. The ownership with the $400 more expensive in the line. I hope Lima closes minus 130, minus 140 tomorrow, and it's even a wider gap is what I'm cheering for. But
great.
yeah, Naimov side. And speaking of late line movement, Garrett Armfield last week, he got bought like a whole dollar, like $1.50. I don't know if you saw that. Like it was like another one of those Derek Minner fights where it's just huge steam late. Except this time the steam was wrong. There was no hurt fighters. So very interesting. Monitoring line movement. Like if you're trying to live bet and stuff, lines move a lot when the fights approach, especially the later in the card and the bigger cards when people are chasing or just tuning into a pay-per-view. You see, usually it's the favorites. Like if you're on a pretty big dog in the main event, unless your name's like Dustin Poirier, something like that, like the favorites just get steamed heavy late, like the last two fights, parlaying both the favorites, whatever it may be. So that's something to keep an eye on. And if you do like a dog, maybe wait a little later than usual and follow that money. So 3 fights left. Calvin Gastelum, Daniel Rodriguez, minus 207 Gastelum, plus 177 is D-Rod, plus 185 for this fight to finish, which is the least likely on the card. Gastelum plus 225, D-Rod plus 700. I mean, so I guess we're on the same page here. This is a fight fade for me. I think Gastelum wins the decision. I am debating playing a little D-Rod, but the problem is I just think he's going to be overowned. Like people know, okay, I'm not going to play Gastelum. There's not many underdogs that we like to play. If you're playing Pavlovich, you're not playing Volkov. If you're playing Dinov, you're not playing Dalby, et cetera, et cetera. Then you look, D-Rod throws a lot of volume. In a win, he scores pretty well. So I think D-Rod's overowned. I think Gastelum wins a decision, and I'm just going to go for that. I'm going to fade this fight in 20 and below. Give me a Gastelum decision win, not enough. It is a little scary because D-Rod, any D-Rod win, not necessarily he'll score great, like 80 points. If he wins, it's probably 100 plus significant strikes, a close decision, which can get there on this card. But again, I think he's going to be over 20% owned. I think that's over-owned. Just 11 fight card, make it a 10 fight card for me, and I'll hope it's not on the optimal.
I am going to have some D-Rod in this one because I'm picking him to win the fight. He's only $7,300. Gastelum, he's going to have to wrestle, I think, to get any kind of score that could really pay off an $8,900 price tag. But he's only landed more than one takedown in 2 of his wins. The first one was against Uriah Hall. He landed 3 takedowns in that one. Only scored 79 DraftKings points. Not going to cut it. And then the other one would be the Heinisch fight where he landed 6 takedowns. He still only scored 95 DraftKings points there. And at $8,900, that's probably not going to cut it either. And I would take the under for sure on 6 takedowns. I think it'll mostly be a striking match. Gastelum doesn't throw enough strikes. D-Rod does. I'm already sitting on a little bit of CLV with my with the D-Rod bet. I'm just going to ride it. I like him on DraftKings. I like him as a cash play. I like him as a GPP play, but he will have some ownership. I just don't think it'll be enough to scare me away, especially when I'm trying to get in the Dinovs or Magomedovs into my lineups. D-Rod's going to be one way to get there. I got another one coming up too, but D-Rod, one of my favorite underdogs on the slate.
Well, you got one coming up, and we got 2 fights left. So I want to say it's going to be this next one right here. Co-main event, big boys stepping in. Sergey Pavlovich, Alexander Volkov. Minus 242 is Pavlovich. Plus 207 is Volkov. Minus 350 for this fight to finish. Minus 170, Pav inside the distance. Plus 340 is Volk. Round 1 props. Pav plus 125. Volk plus 700. Yeah, you can tell me if it's the next one in Alaskarov, but I think you're on the Volk side or Volkov side right here. Tell me why.
Fade the power. I love fading guys who only have power. Pavlovich very live to knock out Volkov in the first round. He's never scored less than 107 points on DraftKings. He could do it again here for sure, but I have him as the highest or the second highest owned guy on the card because people love knockout power. And he's one of their favorite fighters because he just starches people in the first round. However, if he does not starch Volkov in the first round, I think Volkov is the better striker, the higher volume striker, the better wrestler, the better grappler. I just don't see how Pavlovich even wins if this fight gets out of the first round. And at $7,500, I would think that Volkov would mix in takedowns or land a knockout of his own at some point. And at $7,500, he's going to pay off that price tag, and he could get 100+ points of his own. He's got like 47 professional fights, only been knocked out twice. Pavlovich has like 20 fights. He's been knocked out twice. Also been taken down and dominated on the ground by a kickboxer in Overeem. So I just love to fade these first round knockout or bust guys who are 70+% to win and maybe around 50% owned. I'm going to let the field eat all that up. I will go way under. I might be half or less on the Pavlovich side and look to these other favorites that I like more. And Volkov is one of my favorite underdogs on the card. Just stay away from that big punch early, and then he's going to win, I think.
I really can't argue too much. I think Pavlovich is really front-loaded in the first round. I'm picking Pavlovich. I picked Pavlovich against Tom Aspinall. I can't go, all right, now Volkov's going to beat Pavlovich. Like, Aspinall's a real deal. Yeah, he was too fast on the feet. Aspinall's a monster, but I still think Pav's one of the scariest dudes out there. Yeah, I think he knocks out Volkov in the first. But with all that being said, I'll say ownership in this fight because it did catch my eye. I did expect us to, or you to think, I do still think Magomedov will be higher on than Pavlovich just because the pricing is right there next to each other and you have double the favorites in Magomedov, and then people want to play Volkov, whereas people don't want to play Trali, so I think it eats into a little bit. But regardless, Pavlovich is going to be very high owned. Like if it's 50, so we have 53%. Let me pull this up quick. And again, always make sure to update in I'm all over the place right now. Always make sure to update everything throughout the night. If anything changes in the morning, I will update or tag people in the Discord and you will see if ownership, core, whatever changes. But we have 53% Pav, 29% Volkov. At those odds, it's Volkov. I agree. Like that's way too much ownership for Pav on an 11-fight card with no wrestling upside, probably first round KO or bust. So yeah, maybe I'll end up with more Volkov, but when it's all said and done and the cage door is locked, I think Pav finds the chin at some point. He's just so scary. Volkov has more tools to win though, and the odds minus 250. I can't argue it one bit. I'm gonna go with the power. But like you said, fading one thing in power, probably a plus EV strategy with these odds.
Yeah, and if it makes it out of the first round and Pavlovich gets a second round knockout, he's probably not on the optimal lineup because he's not going to land more than like 10 punches in that first round. But the reason I have him so highly owned is because I was so shocked when he fought the Aspinall. He was like 52% owned, and Aspinall was like 38%. I was like, whoa, what is going on here? And I was just loving my Aspinall team so much more at that point. I remember that was like a pretty good night for me, especially betting wise, because Aspinall was one of my last biggest bets. But I still don't think it was that great on DraftKings. I might have won like $100 or something like that when I was like, oh yeah, 52% Volkov, let's get it. So who knows? He could starch Volkov in the first round. He's just the type of fighter that I love to fade. First round knockout or bust at 70% implied odds. I just don't buy it.
Are you convinced his cardio's dust? Like outside of the first? Like he just plots forward.
Cardio's dust. I just don't think he could have any chance of outpointing Volkov. He would have to land like these hard shots that really just wobble Volkov, that leave a lasting impression on the judge's eyes. I just think that Volkov triples him up on strikes if it goes past the first round. And Volkov's got power himself. It would be smart of him to try and look for takedowns as long as you're not putting yourself in danger. But Pavlovich has absolutely nothing off of his back. And if you can get the takedowns, not only are you keeping them guessing if the takedowns are coming, but you're taking away that power in the first round too. So just so many more ways for Volkov to win this fight. And he's how much cheaper? He's freaking $1,200 cheaper, half is owned. That's the type of play I love to play.
Yeah, no, it all makes sense. It's the ownership's really like, even though I'm picking Pav in the first round at that ownership, you tell me 53-29, I think Volkov's the better play. No doubt about that. What's going on, Terry? Hope you're doing well, man. Always nice seeing you, and appreciate the words every week. You're always dropping nice comments. Hope you have a good weekend. Main event time, baby. Last fight of the 11. Again, this is a 12 Eastern lock time in Saudi Arabia. Set an alarm, get your lineups in, do whatever you got to do. Do not have some DNPs or no, whatever you call it. Do not have any lineups that are playing Luderbach or are playing Dennis Tululin or Sabrik Dumas, people that are red in DraftKings. Don't be playing none of them. Main event, Robert Whitaker taking on short notice, Ikram Aliskerov. Aliskerov, again, was supposed to fight last week. He got the call, I believe, Thursday. It was either Wednesday or Thursday. I think it was Thursday, where Chimaev was out. They needed a replacement. Aliskerov takes the main event, where he was supposed to fight short notice Trali. He's got to go to Saudi Arabia. He was already in the process of cutting weight. A lot going against him. Odds in this one. Open -180 Whitaker. Okay, so let me do this quick. Robert Whitaker -162, Aliskerov +142. This fight's -220 to finish. Not both. Aliskerov, the slight dog, +150. Whitaker +175. So the dog is more likely to finish than the favorite. Line movement in this one, though. Open -180, +155. Immediately, Aliskerov took money. Whitaker was a small favorite, and it bounced around the -130 range for a while. And then the past couple days, slowly but surely, it's gone on the Whitaker side, and the line's widened a little bit. 8,400 Whitaker, 7,800 Aliskerov. Again, total ownership in this fight, we have it 90%. So I think the best way to get leverage on this card, maybe go 70% of the main event. You're still pretty underweight. We have fights in the mid-tier we talked about. If Lee or Long takes place on the mat for most of the fight. If Gafurov or Kang somehow can wrestle or you get a big score there. If Volkov or Uzdemir ends up in a first-round knockout. If Felipe or Naimov has a lot of takedowns. Like, there's enough pivots in the mid-tier where you could tell yourself they score 100 points. A third-round Whitaker knockout maybe scores 85, whatever it may be. So I'll probably be underweight on the main event, because that's how you got to get different on an 11-fight card. I'm not making any rules in terms of a pick or my favorite. I'm just going game theory. I lean Aliskerov because it's a lot easier with the 600 savings to get different with Aliskerov than it is Whitaker, for no other reasons besides that. But I also do think Aliskerov is more front-loaded in this one. And if someone gets a first-round knockout or a first-round finish, I do think it is Aliskerov. So you can talk yourself into that as well. But yeah, it's just mainly it's a lot easier to leave money and get different with Aliskerov than it is Whitaker because of the saving. So that's where I'm at on this 11-fight card.
Yeah, I think Aliskerov probably has the highest ceiling as an underdog. If there's a first or second round knockout or submission, it's going to be on the Aliskerov side most likely. He's the better wrestler in this one. He's probably got more one-punch power, but my issue is that he was scheduled to fight last week. He was already cutting weight when he decided that he was going to take this fight in Saudi Arabia when he was scheduled for 3 rounds against a grappler. So what was his game plan? Probably more so to strike, I would think. And now you're going up against a striker in 5 rounds. So if your game plan is to wrestle, I don't think you got 5 rounds of wrestling in the gas tank anymore, especially I wouldn't say I've seen him gas in the past, but like when he gets extended into fights, he is breathing hard. He doesn't look like he's going to go a hard 5 if it was going to go that far. So I like Whitaker quite a bit in this one. I got a little CLV on the Whitaker side too. I think if he can stay alive in the first or second round, this is his fight to win. And if there's a finish in the 3rd through 5th round, I think it's Whitaker getting it. So give me Whitaker to keep this fight standing. He is pretty hard to take down. I don't even know that wrestling is going to be in Aliskerov's game plan, especially with 5 rounds that he's got to work with. So if he doesn't get a first or second round knockout, I think he starts getting picked apart in this one. Give me Whitaker by 4th, 5th round TKO or a unanimous decision. I don't know that any of those are going to put him on the optimal lineup, though. I do like it that he's only 8,400, so we don't have to have 100 plus from him. Maybe a 90, 95 could get it done. So I will still be around field weight on the Whitaker side, but I'm going to go at least half on the Aliskerov side. I think it's just a little bit too much, too fast for him. And that country change, the round change, I just don't think that's doing him any good in this matchup. So give me Whitaker when I probably would have been picking Chimaev over Whitaker here, but switching it all up. I was picking Ikram last week, then I was picking Chimaev to beat Whitaker. Now I'm picking Whitaker to beat Ikram. So I like that, but I think you're right. Fading the main event is a really good way to get different in this one, because we could see Whitaker get a clear decision win and still score 84 points, 10x. That's probably not going to cut it. So I do think that's one way I'll be looking to get different, especially when I'm eating all the Magomedov chalk and Dinov chalk. On my chalkier lineups, look to fade the main event maybe.
Yeah, no, and if you're going to go a little overweight Whitaker, but or half the ownership on Ikram, you're going to naturally be underweight. I'm not saying I'm going to be less than 50% on the main event. Now, if I love my script, and I am, sure, it's an 11 fight card. I do have to be a little more aggressive than usual. But 70%, you are still underweight. Yeah, it only takes one lineup in MMA. I will be looking for a Whitaker live betting spot. I do know that for sure. I like your pre-flop. Siggy, my man, he texted me yesterday, 2 days ago. He loved the Whitaker side, thought the line was wrong as well. It was minus 145 at the time. I just know I want to make sure round one's fine. I've seen Rob hurt too many times early recently where he's on skates and I'm like, uh-oh, hold my breath time. So I want to at least see him get the leg kick, get the calf kick, get the jab going. Then I might live bet. But hey, by then it might be minus 250 and I missed the boat. So good luck to you with that line. Good luck to everybody on this 11 fight card. Again, 12 Eastern, 9 a.m. my time. Hey, get up, get a little sweat in the sauna, go for a little run, prepare for the fights, and then absolutely enjoy sitting on the couch, watching some sports, watching some violence all day long. Final thoughts for the people, Big Marley.
Nah, man, really rooting for Volkov tomorrow. He's going to be my slate breaker if he can get it done. But yeah, hopefully it's a good one. Hopefully we can find a way to, if not solo ship it, then just split with a few people. But good luck to you, Title. Good luck to everybody listening. Let's ship it.
Let's ship it. All of our MMA content will be up shortly at ShipItNation.com. If you're not a member, you want to join FGWC 15, gets you 15% off monthly, 6-month, or annual packages. You just want to see the content for a weekly pass, $25 a week. Head over. Again, weekly, you'll get all the MMA this week, PGA Showdown, MLB. I'll be live with Ham in a couple hours. Stack rankings, pitcher rankings, projections, ownership, NASCAR Sunday. Plenty of cheese to be made, even with the NBA over. Next thing you know, NFL will be here. We got you covered there. Great team coming off a huge first year in the NFL streets for Shipping Nation. And of course, shout out our sponsors sponsoring this show, Drafters. If you want to draft on the best drafting best ball site, head over to drafters.com. They will match 100% from $20 to $100. You put in $20, use that promo code SHIPIT. They'll give you $20. You put in $100, they will give you $100 using that promo code SHIPIT. Let's make some money this week, Big Marley. What do we say? Have a good weekend, everybody. Enjoy the pool. Enjoy your high noons. Enjoy the weather. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the summer.
Yes, sir.
Good luck, Big Marley. Good luck, everybody else. Be safe out there. Peace.